This is Maharajas of Scale, a podcast where we go behind the scenes and talk to founders who are demolishing the myths around building and scaling a big business in India. These are the stories that have shattered the assumptions around Indian consumers and are changing the game completely. I am Krishna serial entrepreneur, co-founder of Flit, the fashion locator in town, and startup mentor, bringing you these stories. Hey everyone, this is Krishna from Maharajas of Scale. Today we are speaking with Amit Munjal of Doctor Insta that has been touching the lives of millions of people across India in a unique telemedicine business model. Amit, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Krishna. I appreciate you having me.
So Amit, Doctor Insta, this is one of those things that all of us would think about doing at some point in time. It's a doctor, a video call away, and for a country like India, it would be God sent for a lot of people. If we see lines outside of doctors' clinics and at the kind of crowd that you see in a lot of medical establishments, this not just feels like a lifesaver, but a saver on multiple fronts as well.
True that, Krishna, and I can tell you that around 7 years back, that's how the idea came about. This was before the app ecosystem was as well developed worldwide, not just in India, but worldwide as it is now. I was vacationing with some friends on a remote island of Hawaii and ended up having a small health issue. And a friend of mine popped out his iPhone and said that, hey, listen, I'm aware of this new app which helps you get connected to a doctor immediately. And, initially I was skeptical, but being on an island, I had no better option. So I did this with a doctor on the continental US land. And to my surprise, I had a fantastic experience. And I figured that, in a country like India, which is one of the worst doctor-to-patient ratios, and even in bigger cities where people end up wasting 3 to 4 hours of time dealing with chaotic traffic, not so good parking infrastructure, and then waiting in the waiting rooms of the doctor, this service would be a fantastic value add. Although in 2012, data was an issue in India, smartphone numbers were not that big in India. So I put this on the back burner and went about doing what I was doing. And then it took 3 more years to finally take the plunge. And I'm glad in hindsight, I took that plunge in 2015, whereby we launched Doctor Insta services pan-India, making people do these consults via phone, video, and chat with our curated pool of doctors across 40 subspecialties. And since then, we have been growing one day at a time, one step at a time. We have also added some more features that we would talk about in the next few minutes.
So that's amazing. What's your personal background? Are you a physician?
No, Krishna. I have worked very closely with healthcare industry during my management consulting days, but I'm not a physician. By background, I'm out and out a management professional. I did my undergrad in business and then MBA from Indiana University, Bloomington, advanced management from Harvard Business School, and then CFA, charter from CFA Institute, West Virginia, US. That's my academic background. Thanks. Professionally, I've done a stint in management consulting, working with the CXOs of very large companies. After that, I did a gig in mergers and acquisitions, working with a subsidiary of ING. Then I did investment banking and investment management, both with Bank of America Merrill Lynch. And in my last role before I founded Doctor Insta, I was the CFO for Citi Holdings, which is a division of Citibank in US. So that's my professional background.
Wow, that's a long line of accomplishments, senior positions. And how did the brush with healthcare happen? Was it always something at the back of your mind?
It was. While in business school too, I was heading the healthcare academy. So that gave me good exposure to the healthcare industry as a whole, from payers, which are insurance companies, health insurance companies, to providers, which are doctors and caregivers, to the final users who are availing the services.
So being in the US, have extensive exposure there. The US healthcare system, which is considered to be one of the greatest on the planet because of a variety of things, the kind of drugs that they unveil, the therapies they create, and all the enabling laws that they have. A lot of people in India are not aware that if you walk into a hospital, regardless of whether you have insurance or not, the local law mandates that you have to treat the patient. That creates its own set of winners or losers. And right from the time of Barack Obama's first presidency, there has always been this huge controversy around healthcare. Even in such an advanced economy, creating something in healthcare is not that easy, given the amount of legislation that exists there. But India poses a totally different set of challenges. Why India? Why not somewhere else?
See, I can tell you that sometimes being a greenfield initiative in a country also opens some fantastic opportunities for you to grow and scale. For example, as you rightly mentioned in US, you have to be a state board certified doctor to offer healthcare to the residents of that particular state, which means that if you are in California as a patient, you cannot consult with a doctor from New York, either in person or in a virtual manner, unless you are actually in the state of New York where the doctor is board certified. Now, if the doctor is like board certified in different states, then the doctor can consult the patients from different states. Now, if you look at India, that means that, and Krishna, you're in Bangalore, right?
That's right.
So you're in Karnataka. I'm in Gurgaon, which is technically Haryana. Imagine a virtual healthcare platform following the rules of US means that a doctor in Karnataka cannot do consultation with patients in Haryana through a virtual manner. So we don't have restrictions, which is fantastic. A doctor in Kashmir can do consultations pan-India, and which opens the telemedicine platform far more than it could in the US market. So that's the beauty of this setup. The second thing is that in India, we have one of the worst doctor to patient ratios. Most of the doctors are concentrated in bigger cities because they want a better lifestyle and amenities for their family members and children, which unfortunately the villages and tier D cities do not offer to them. So with virtual healthcare, doesn't matter where you are at, and even the villagers or the smaller cities where these doctors do not prefer to practice now can seek the consultations of the doctors sitting in bigger cities. Third thing, if you look at it from a doctor's perspective, it's the most beautiful thing that can happen to a doctor, because a typical catchment area of a doctor is what, 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers, Krishna? Like nobody.
Even that's big, I would say.
Yeah. So nobody will go to a doctor hundreds or thousands of miles away unless it is a life-threatening issue. So for 99% of the OPD consultations, which are catering to moderate natured problems like fever, flu, backache, stomach bug, viral infection, UTI, urinary tract infection, or URI, upper respiratory tract infection, or mental health issues like anxiety, stress, depression, dermatological issues. These constitute vast majority of the OPD consultations. So a typical doctor now, whose catchment area would have been limited to otherwise 15, 20 kilometers, can now see patients from all over the country. And for a doctor too, the fixed cost structure is next to none in this model. They don't have to commute to the hospital, so they end up saving 2 hours of time in terms of not going to the hospital or coming back from the hospital in the evening, which means that for those 2 hours, they do not get paid. But in virtual healthcare or telemedicine, they are free to consult during that time and make money during that time and give society more of their valuable time, seeing more patients through this channel. So net, fantastic thing for the doctors. Also a fantastic thing for the patients too, because even in bigger cities where the number of doctors is not a problem around you, the challenge is that you still end up wasting 3 to 4 hours of time because of traffic situation, parking situation, and then waiting in the waiting room of the doctor situation. Whereas with the platform like Doctor Insta, you can just tap the app and do the consultation as and when you want. Not just that, in our society in India, we have a huge social stigma around certain specialties like sexology, or even psychology has a huge social stigma. But with virtual healthcare, you don't have to worry about the social stigma. You can do these consults from the privacy and comfort of your home without worrying about, if I go to that sexologist or that psychologist, then I might be seen by my extended circle of friends or acquaintances, as a result of which my reputation would get tarnished. So that thought, which prevents you from going to see a psychologist or a sexologist because you feel that there is a social stigma around these specialties, as a result of which the society will judge you in a very, very punitive manner. That root cause of the problem is solved because now you can just tap the app and do the consultations with the sexologists and psychologists.
Yeah, that's especially on those two fronts. Privacy and respect for the individual is definitely guaranteed on a platform like this. What has been the kind of scale, something like this, which is so simple, so impactful? What have the results been so far? What kind of scale have you been able to achieve?
We have around 3.5 million users in India, with 150 large companies which have taken Doctor Insta solution for their employees. And by that, what I mean is that, let's say, Krishna, that you're running a 50,000 people organization, and you say, oh, you know what? I care about my employee health. I care about my employees' happiness and lifespan and longevity, because one, it's the right thing to do. Second, it's also very interlinked to the productivity levels. Unhappy, unhealthy employees would not be as productive as happy and healthy employees in any organization. So there is a tangible as well as an intangible reason for any organization to have a solution like Doctor Insta, whereby employer offers Doctor Insta to all their employees, which means that employees and their dependents could do consults with the doctors of Doctor Insta anytime they like without paying a single penny to the doctors. So it's free healthcare to all of them. Not just that, we also couple it with our offline strategy of doing the hand-holding for all these patients. So Doctor Insta comes into the picture, let's say with 50,000 people organization of Krishna, and now we do a medical scoring or healthcare scoring of all these employees. Based on that, we put different employees in different buckets. There would be a segment which is very healthy and doesn't have any physical or mental health issues. And the plan for them is to help them maintain their fantastic equation in life so that they stay in the best of physical health and mental health. Then there is a segment of employees which have issues, let's say, about physical health. Physical health issues could also be ranging from, okay, I have cardiological issues for 5,000 employees. We are finding diabetologic issues in the other 5,000 employees. So in these cases, our cardiologists would be available online and offline. By offline, I mean on-site, doing like the periodic cardiological camps at these office locations of this company to make sure that nobody falls off the wagon and these employees get consistent care from the cardiologists or from the diabetologists of Doctor Insta on site. And if they need any follow-up care, then these same doctors are also available online to complete the service offering. Not just that, if these employees say, you know what, can someone from Doctor Insta also help in delivering of medicines or getting my diagnostic tests done, then Doctor Insta has those beautiful features inbuilt in the app too. We have tie-ups with all the leading offline and online pharmacies, as well as the diagnostic chains of the country. So we provide an end-to-end solution to our users. Not just that, we found another problem in India, which was unlike US, which has a dedicated 911 number, which if you dial, the ambulance comes to you right away. And that last hour is very critical when it comes to saving the lives of the people who are having an emergency. With Doctor Insta, we enable now the ambulatory dispatch service. So no matter where you are in the country, Doctor Insta would be able to send you the ambulance in a very consistent and timely manner and take you to the hospital which is nearest to you or the one that you're choosing to go to.
One start, telemedicine, and these are the number of areas that you've been able to touch.
Correct.
What has been the personal journey ever since you dreamt up or thought about this or envisioned this in 2012? How easy or how difficult has it been? The Indian landscape can be frustrating and enabling both at the same time. What has been the personal journey, Amit?
I think the personal journey has been mixed bags. There have been ups and downs, peaks and valleys in this journey. For a very long time, we have been focusing on B2B2C as well as B2C. So the example of B2B2C is that the employer would take Doctor Insta for all their employees and dependents. And the good example for B2C would be anyone can download the app and do the consultation on pay-as-you-go basis or on an annual subscription plan basis with Doctor Insta. B2C, just like in most industries, is a major cash guzzling operation. It leads to a huge burn, and only then you see the results over a period of 8 to 10 years. So while we are plugging away with B2C in the best possible manner, taking into account our budget for ad spend as well, we have also been plugging away on B2B2C. And it's in B2B2C where we have gotten like 150 large companies taking Doctor Insta solution for their employees and dependents.
So your own personal, while this business model was evolving, how did your own personal journey evolve with it?
My personal journey has been intertwined with my professional life. As an entrepreneur, you eat, sleep, drink the idea that has consumed you for most part. My personal journey has been very beautiful, by the way, because I feel that in my previous avatar in finance, the focus was only on shareholders, whereas in this journey of democratizing healthcare for everyone, anytime and anywhere, I'm in my own small way enabling the improvement of healthcare in our country. And there's nothing better than the gift of good health that you can give to yourself or to others. Also, virtual healthcare is a beautiful thing for the planet too, because it means fewer hospitals are needed in this society to offer consultations to these patients, because you are enabling most of these consultations by leveraging the technology and giving them healthcare no matter where they are at, as a result of which no patient has to drive or take public transportation to a hospital and add to the carbon footprint and fuel emission levels of the country. So triple bottom line focus is the linchpin of my current model. The third component of the triple bottom line is hopefully it turns out to be a very good thing for our shareholders too in times to come. So good health, better planet, and hopefully profit for the shareholders.
When I was in the US and saw some telemedicine options, I was always thinking, I hope somebody does telemedicine in India. But then again, I happen to have a bunch of doctors in the family. My father-in-law is a pediatrician and he's widely there in the medical fraternity. But along, it must not have been easy. You need the support of Medical Council of India, the Indian Medical Association. Putting all of this together must not have been a slam dunk. What were some of those obstacles that you faced?
See, India laws are a little archaic. So the laws in India for healthcare were written before probably the invention of telephone. So, the laws around telemedicine are very gray, but I personally met the health minister of the country and the health ministers of many other states, pan-India. And I was very, very glad to hear that at a top of the house in the government, there is a strong support for telemedicine, because government realizes that India has two major problems. One that we briefly talked about, which is the number of doctors per 1,000 is one of the lowest in India in relation to other countries. And the second problem is the problem of self-medication. Many people, for lack of time, end up self-medicating. And there are different varied examples of self-medication, ranging from popping a pill at your home to walking up to a neighborhood to a pharmacy, asking the attendant there that, oh, I should take this medicine, or asking the attendant that, hey, give me some medicine. And the attendant is not the best judge of your medical health anyways. Attendant doesn't know much about healthcare. What attendant ends up giving is a strong antibiotic, which may or may not even be required for the problem that you're handling with. This attendant would not care about your allergies, about other conflicts with the other medicines that you're taking. And that's a huge issue in Indian market. So, and if you ask most of the people who are educated and doing this, which is walking up to a pharmacy and asking the attendant there, then one of the biggest reasons that you get to hear is that, oh, listen, I don't have time to go to a hospital. So I feel that if I take the medicine given to me by this attendant, hopefully I would feel better, which means that I would not have to go to hospital because I run a very busy life and I won't have 3 to 4 hours of time to go to a clinic. So we are, in a way, helping these people who are time starved to get the consultations with these doctors as quickly as possible without wasting 4 hours of time.
I possibly wouldn't find fault with them, given the kind of lines and waiting times that you tend to see at any primary or secondary or tertiary care center. First off, it takes about 2 to 3 hours to see an average doctor, even if he's there. Second off, the conditions are not that great. And like you said, it is amazing how many industries and opportunity the terrible state of our Indian infrastructure is creating, isn't it?
Correct.
From home delivery of medicine to home delivery of food to home delivery of massage services, yoga therapists, whatnot. It feels like if we had better infrastructure, we possibly would have more efficient models, but it's amazing. We also have another problem, don't you think, Amit? We also have a quality problem. While we do have a quantity problem in the form of density, because in Karnataka, which is home to lots of medical colleges, and when I personally wanted to, choose a stream after my 10th, my father said, there are so many doctors and engineers out there. You choose if you want to be one of them. The density problem is a problem, but there is also a quality problem. Is there not?
True, Krishna. There is a quality problem. And that's why what we did at Doctor Insta was we have one of the most stringent selection, screening, and training platform for the doctors. We just don't onboard any doctor and every doctor, with all due respect to the doctor community. Doctors have to go through a very, strict interview process. All the doctors have to have MD degrees and at least 5 years of post-MD work experience at marquee hospitals or, marquee name brand medical colleges of the country. So what it does is it automatically eliminates the weaker links of the chain. And if you're a very good doctor, only then you are eligible for the interview. And now from this pool of very good doctors, we choose best in breed doctors. We just don't stop there. When we onboard these doctors, then too, at the end of every consultation, a patient has the opportunity to rate the doctor. So from our curated pool of doctors, because of crowdsourcing of thousands of ratings on daily basis on different doctors, if a certain doctor's rating drop below a certain threshold, then we decommission that doctor from the platform. So the platform in itself has a survivorship bias, and every single day, because of crowdsourcing of these ratings and reviews of these doctors, the platform becomes superior and better, with better performing doctors at play and the worst performing doctors getting filtered out of our value chain.
So let's talk about the B2B2C push. You spoke about everything comes back to the density problem, and the other side of the density problem is access. Urban people, urban residents like you and me, we do not necessarily have an access problem. While we do have several doctors around us, there are the infrastructure and the weight issues are maybe lifestyle issues and infrastructure issues. But when we look at other parts of India where there's absolutely no access whatsoever, I can understand in 2012, internet and data penetration was not that great. Now with the geo effect of data penetration being there widely and much more powerful smartphones existing, are you seeing the access problem for semi-rural and semi-urban places getting better with platforms like yours?
So I was saying definitely, I see the data situation becoming far better in smaller cities and villages, as you rightly mentioned, than it used to be. India used to be one of the most pricey data sellers just a few years back, and now data is one of the cheapest things available to all of us. And not just that, even for the people who do not have smartphones, we have offered a solution to those people too. that, okay, over the period of time, we understand that you may migrate from a feature phone to smartphone, but for now, you can have consultations with the doctors of Doctor Insta using your feature phone too. You can call our Doctor Insta number, and then the call center, inbound call center employee of Doctor Insta would get you connected with the doctors in the specialties of your choice.
So let's understand that journey a bit, given the numerous languages that exist out there. So for instance, let's say a patient in some part of a remote part of Orissa uses Doctor Insta. There is a language barrier. Is there a local person that's helping them to sort of finally find a doctor, or all of this is they dial a number and then eventually somebody comes online and then puts them in touch with a doctor? Is that how that happens?
So the way it happens is that we have solved this problem in a very simple manner. If you come to the app, you already see which languages are different doctors conversant in. So you can cherry pick the one or from the many who are listed there as doctors who are competent to speak with you in your own native tongue. So if I have a Tamil speaking mother or a Kannada speaking father, and they want to communicate with the doctor in their own native language, then with Doctor Insta, you can easily do so. So all they have to do is choose the doctors who are conversant in those languages.
I see. What are some interesting things that you have seen happen, Amit, from a semi-rural, semi-urban, or even an urban perspective, something that you did not expect to see when you started this journey?
Oh, sure. So, I did not know initially what would be the preferred medium for these patients to do consultations with the doctors, whether it be phone or video or chat. But couple of interesting things that I was able to see on recurring basis was, one, that for certain practice areas, there is a bias toward one communication medium over the other. And by that, what I mean is that for sexology patients, vast majority of these patients end up choosing phone and not the video. Now compare that to psychology, where vast majority of the patients choose video and not the phone. So very divergent trends. And then there are certain practice areas which are a no-brainer, like dermatology. People choose video because they want to show something to the dermatologist. So no-brainer there. But the stark contrast between psychology and sexology came as a surprise to me initially. Also, what we see is that for our B2B2C users, the top 3 specialties are different from the top 3 specialties for our B2C users. So for example, for our B2B2C users, which are basically employees of the large companies that we are catering to, the top 3 services that they choose when it comes to specialty are 1, general medicine, 2, gynecology, and 3, pediatrics. Whereas for the B2C users, the top 3 specialties are number 1, sexology, number 2, psychology, and then number 3, general medicine. So general medicine is the common one between our B2C and B2C, although the rank order is different. But that was also an interesting phenomenon, proving the hypothesis that how, the B2C users have a bigger social stigma in their mind, and they feel that, or they have to look for a tool like Doctor Insta to do consultations with the sexologists and psychologists rather than going to those psychologists and sexologists.
Could it also be that, in a B2B2C scenario, the employees have some apprehension that the employer might know what kind of services that they may have availed?
I'm sure that apprehension is there, although there is a written commitment from our side that we don't infringe upon doctor-patient privacy. And this is like super discreet, confidential, and nobody would ever know. But having said this, you are right. I'm sure among some people that apprehension would still be there. But the other driver along with that apprehension is also the fact that people who have sexological and psychological issues are actually searching for tools like Doctor Insta. So they are the ones seeking tools like Doctor Insta more than the other patients in other specialty areas.
Let's talk about the Indian user or the Indian consumer beyond some of these obvious differences in terms of, let's say, sexology and dermatology, the modes. What were some of your foundational beliefs or beliefs that you started out with saying that hey, I think the user is going to be this way or that way from a pricing perspective or a behavior perspective. What were some of those beliefs or foundational assumptions that you started out with? Did they hold true, or did you end up discovering something totally new?
See, some held true and some led to new discoveries in these realms. For example, in the past, I would think that if people have phone and video as a medium to speak with the doctor, why would they choose chat? They may use chat for peripheral questions with the same doctor with whom they have consulted. Okay, so I had a consultation with Dr. Kumar and I forgot to ask, how should I take this pill? Should I take it empty stomach or full stomach? Yeah, you can get those questions addressed through chat. But I didn't realize that people would be asking questions after making the payments by chat as a preferred medium. And the reason became clear to me only when we took the plunge. The reason is twofold, that some people have, specific questions that they feel not so comfortable about asking their close circle of friends or family members, like people in their late teens or early 20s having sexological issues, saying that, oh, what should I do? I'm pregnant, or what should I do to avoid pregnancy, or other such nature questions related to erectile dysfunction and stuff like that. So people are using chat at a far higher level than I had initially thought. The second set of users that we get are probably the working employees who are not permitted to carry their smartphones but can still go online using their computers and pose these questions through chat to the doctors. So I feel that those two must be the key drivers for chat as a equally prominent medium of choice for consultation with the doctors, just like phone consults or video consults.
So let's talk about the density problem from a different angle. And since you've been in the US for a while, anybody that goes for treatment in the US in any hospital sees that or witnesses that the nurses there tend to be far more trained, far more adept. In many cases, for example, in my wife's case, on both the pregnancies, 80% of the diagnosis, the support, and the comforting, all of that stuff was done by the nurses. In many cases, it's also a function of the economics of that system. A physician's build time is so much more expensive, and therefore, as a result of that, it may have had that ratio, but still, it is surprising to see so much knowledge, so much training, and so much skill with the nurses. Are you doing anything to improve that with, let's say, some paramedics or nurses, equipping them with some primary diagnosis, so therefore you could improve the density angle in a different way, so that the initial diagnosis is all done by these people, and then the doctor actually looks at the diagnosis and maybe does one more final diagnosis and concurs with the nurses or the paramedics analysis?
See, I think India is still a few years away from trusting the nurses as much as America does. I think you rightly said it better than anyone else could, that nurses in America are far more trained to diagnose these issues. And then here in India, unfortunately, the trust factor in terms of having a nurse diagnose an issue is not as much. Not just that, the other major difference is also that in US, for your moderate natured specialty problem, even a GP, general practitioner, would be able to address it. Whereas here in India, people have a propensity to go to the specialist straight away, then going to a GP first and then going to a specialist if the patient is referred by a GP to a specialist. So as a result of that, we are not doing as much in that domain because one, virtual healthcare is relatively new. Second, it would be an even tougher sell if we say that we are connecting our patients with the nurses, not with the specialist doctors. So because of the stage of the evolution of the healthcare system in India, I feel that we can't do it yet.
So let's talk about another angle. You're doing thousands of consultations on a daily basis. Obviously, there is a mountain of data that is getting generated from this, which is otherwise missing from a lot of caregivers over there, right? Because you're one integrated platform. you have so many specialties that you're offering. That would mean that you're able to structure this data, slice and dice, and say, okay, this is 80% of the queries come from here. This is where the primary diagnosis is, and this is where the cost is. So let's try and see if we can push out a WebMD kind of a platform for preliminary diagnosis, so we can route these requests better, or get at least some minor queries answered. Are you seeing any of those sorts of opportunities emerge?
Definitely. I think over a period of time, as artificial intelligence and machine learning evolve even more, we would be relying more and more on AI and ML, machine learning, to address these rudimentary issues that our users may have. For now, we are using the healthcare chatbots of a large company called YourMD. It's a UK-based company. And imagine YourMD to be WebMD 2.0 when it comes to healthcare chatbots. So that's what we are leveraging in the back end to get those questions addressed from the larger patient pool. And I think in our blueprint, as we become even more big and have bigger pool of data to process, the intent is to have our own in-house healthcare chatbots to address these questions and take it from there.
So then the day is not far off when we are going to possibly use natural language ability of artificial intelligent machines that can respond to patient questions like a normal human would, and the patient would not make out at all that it was not a human that was speaking to them, which could potentially improve the density problem and access problem in a big way for the rural and the semi-rural locations.
Totally. Imagine living in a world where there are like 7 billion people today on Earth. Imagine if the data is aggregated for tens of millions of people, and this artificial intelligence and machine learning could even help the doctors. So imagine, Krishna, you're walking to a doctor's office, and doctor knows that I can treat Krishna's problem with medicine A or medicine B or medicine C. So overall, worldwide, medicine A was able to provide relief to, call it, 50% people, B was able to provide relief to 30% people, and C was able to provide relief to 20% people. So for now, doctor is very likely to choose medicine A because there is a higher probability of Krishna's getting a solution by medicine A. But now, doctor using AI and ML figures out that, oh wait, Krishna is a male, so let me look at this trend for male population only. Oh wait, Krishna is of Indian descent, so let me add that variable as well. And oh wait, Krishna is, call it, a 27-year-old, so let me marry that fact with population which is in the same ballpark range of, call it, 25 to 30. Now, using these variables, doctor runs the same AI database and figures out, oh wait, although overall medicine A was 50% effective, but using these demographics, Krishna being a male, 27-year-old of Indian descent, medicine C has a 70% success rate. So in the previous iteration where doctor would have given you first medicine A, and if medicine A had not worked, you would have gone to doctor again, doctor would have replaced it with medicine B, and if medicine B had not worked, then doctor would have replaced it with medicine C. Now, doctor, without much ado and with a higher degree of confidence, gives you medicine C right off the bat because of the aggregation of all that millions of data points that are coming together, further enhancing the decision-making of the doctor. So this can be possible in the world of tomorrow. I'm sure many entrepreneurs are already working on aggregating such medical data points and seeing how people react to these medicines, and then factoring those demographics and other ethnicities into the equation.
So how has your rural push been beyond the urban centers? How have you been able to scale the rural push? Have you been able to scale there?
Rural push, I can tell you, is a little challenging. And the reason it is challenging is because of the pricing pressure. If you have good specialist MD doctor offering the consultation, then this good specialist MD doctor also expects a commensurate compensation for the time that they are giving. Now, in the rural India, the problem is around the pricing shock. So if I offer the service of a specialist MD doctor, even at 200 rupees or 150 rupees per consult, it becomes a challenge for rural India. Rural India would be happy to consume this service at 60 rupees or so. The problem is at 60 rupees, I have to give a large amount of that 60 rupees to a doctor who would not be an MD doctor, but will be an MBBS doctor only. And then the enablers of assisted e-commerce. So these are like VLEs, village level entrepreneurs who are peddling your service in those villages, getting those villagers connected to the doctors, also have expectations around decent compensation. Okay, so imagine you are in some village of Karnataka near, you pick the name, near Belgaum. Belgaum is a big city, but let's pick some village of Belgaum. And now you say, okay, I'm offering consultation for 60 rupees. And say, okay, I'll give 45 rupees to the MBBS doctor, which seems on the low end for the MBBS doctor, but let's run with that. And maybe, 14 rupees or 15 rupees to the village level entrepreneur enabling this service. Now, for this VLE, unfortunately or fortunately, he or she has other things to sell to this patient or the villager, from e-commerce products to insurance to loans, where he can make far, far more than 15 rupees that he would be making enabling Doctor Insta consult. And that's why, because of the acute pricing pressures in the rural India, we are not able to scale as much. Now, with your podcast tool, I request to all the large corporations which have their CSR budgets sitting aside to leverage the rural platform of Doctor Insta to enable, complimentary consults to these villagers paid for by the CSR rupees that they have set aside in their budgets. So that probably is one way to deal with the situation. Second way to deal with the situation is, since that model would work only in a socialistic setup, not in a capitalistic setup, I, through your medium, also request the different state governments, because at the end of the day, health is a state subject in India, for the health ministers to offer a tool like Doctor Insta, all their residents of the state. Imagine the state of Haryana has population of 1.5 crore people, and for a few paisas per person, the state of Haryana can offer a number to all the residents of the Haryana, saying that, hey, dial this number and you will get free consults. Far more cheaper, far more efficient way to offer consultations to the villagers where they won't otherwise have access to the doctors. Net, it also reduces the overall healthcare spend for these states too, because a stitch at time prevents the other 9. Imagine on day 1, day 2 of your figuring out that the patient has a dengue, so needs these tests, versus a patient dealing with the trials and tribulations of acute pain like dengue without even knowing that the patient has a dengue for 6-7 days, and then hopping on a bus, going to the nearest city and getting a treatment for dengue. So that's far more expensive, because this patient doesn't have much money to pay. So more likely than not, he would land in a civil hospital, consume a bed there, get free medicines there as well, hopefully. And this all could have been prevented if the patient had been treated from day 1 or day 2 using a platform like Doctor Insta.
What has been the most frustrating moment of this journey? There have been many positive ones. What have been a couple of most frustrating ones?
The most frustrating moment, I have quite a few, so it's hard to figure out which one was most frustrating. Every single day as an entrepreneur, you have to deal with different things. I know initially we wanted to have even lesser friction for our patients to enroll in Doctor Insta. So we would just take names and your phone number. There was no OTP validation necessary, because, not that OTP is that expensive to or that time consuming to implement, just that it adds one more layer of friction. So we offer Doctor Insta just like that. But we learned it the hard way that some people started abusing the platform. Some patients started in a way misbehaving with our female doctors. So we figured that, oh no, this is not the right way to go about it. Our female doctors should also feel, protected on an environment like this, especially when it comes to sensitive specialties like psychology or sexology. So then we Indianized the product and we said OTP validation is necessary. This way we would have a validated phone number of the patient, and patients would be, or some bad apples who are screwing it up for all of us would be extra careful about not abusing the platform. It's like, back in the day when YouTube would let you post comments anonymously without taking your address or email people would post all kind of junk in their messages right beneath the videos. And then they started taking your legitimate emails and put other checks and balances in place, as a result of which there is far less abuse now. So same thing for Doctor Insta as well. But it was frustrating to see that, we are trying to do good deeds here by reducing the friction points for the patients, and how some patients were trying to abuse the platform, making our doctors less comfortable than we would have liked for them to be. Second frustration is the one that we talked about already, about penetration in rural India, how we are struggling because of the pricing barriers of rural India, where rural people don't have the kind of wallet that is required to offer good quality consultation service to these patients.
The tier 2 towns possibly don't have the pricing issue, right, Amit? For instance, let's say I take Bangalore, and so let's say between Bangalore and Tirupati, which is in Andhra Pradesh, there are a clutch of tier 2 towns.
Correct.
So time and again, one of the things that I keep sort of getting surprised is, as soon as you step out of Bangalore, the quality of infrastructure, everything drops drastically. Bangalore roads are, as it is, very bad, and you can imagine how those towns are. And the number of doctors are 30 years ago, the same doctors are still in circulation. There are very few new caregivers getting added, but their money is not a problem. So tier 2 push would be more easier than a complete rural push, I would imagine.
I agree, and that's what we're doing. So we have a lot of patients coming to us from smaller cities like Varanasi, Patna, Jaipur, Chandigarh.
Right.
Tier 2 push has been with far less friction than a tier 1 push. And when I say tier 1, I'm talking about top 11 cities of the country. So that's what we are trying to do. And now it has been far more successful than rural India, as you rightly mentioned. In tier 1 cities, the main problem is also the traffic, as a result of which people end up wasting a far more time than they do in tier 2 cities. And also, the thing about tier 2 cities is that tier 2 cities, at least people have a little more time available to them than people in tier 1 cities. Imagine you are going to office, your office is like 1 hour away from home. Each way you end up wasting 2 hours of time in office. And all of us have 24 hours in a given day anyways. And in tier 1 cities, many husband and wives are working, as a result of which time is always a scarcity. And tier 2 has that problem too, but the problem is less there. Generally, it's the husband who is working in tier 2.
So what have been some cherishing moments that you've absolutely enjoyed while doing this, Amit?
I think, when we initially launched this service, we would have to wait for even a single call to come to our pool of doctors. And after a few days, the number went to like low single digit number on daily basis. Soon it started ramping up to, in its tens, hundreds. And now, I'm glad that that number is in thousands. And hopefully next year, as we speak, this number, if it is in lakhs, nothing like it, because that's where you get to provide the benefit of virtual healthcare to people of India at a very, very mass level. I mean, if you look at the market, there are like 1 million doctors in the country. And I'm talking about allopathic doctors only, not the Ayush doctors. Imagine like each doctor doing, call it 50 OPD consults in a day. So 1 million multiplied by 50 gives you 50 million consults happening every single day in India. And I feel that virtual healthcare can definitely leverage 2% of it in the next couple of years. So 2% of 50 million comes out to be around 1 million consults happening every single day on virtual healthcare platform. And that's where you can say that, I am in my own small way bringing the healthcare benefit to 1 million lives every day in the country. So that would be a moment that we are all waiting for to happen for us in India.
How long was that initial phase when you didn't have calls, and did you at some point in time feel like gosh, did we make a bad decision, or are we early in the game? How long did it take for you to get some traction, and what was going through your mind at that time?
Took us like 3 to 4 months to build okay traction. And yeah, as an entrepreneur, you always second guess about the road not taken all the time. I still do it while doing Doctor Insta, but I'm very bullish, very hopeful, very optimistic about virtual healthcare. I've seen it evolving in different countries. US already has 3 or 4 large companies in this domain. China, our next door neighbor, which is a few years ahead of us when it comes to virtual healthcare, also has 4 large companies operating in this domain. So I think it's a matter of time before we reach that happy number of 1 million consults a day in India too.
Do you have a founding team?
I do have a core team. One of our core team members is a medical doctor. The other core team member is a out and out engineer. The other founding team member is a dedicated and very well experienced business development person. You can't.
These co-founders or founding team members?
They're founding team members.
So you're a solo entrepreneur, Amit?
I wouldn't call myself to be a solo entrepreneur, because in this journey, many people have joined forces with me. So there are a lot of engineers, a lot of doctors, a lot of business development people, customer service people helping me in this initiative. We are also backed by institutional investors. So they are also enabling this journey forward. And all of them have helped us in whatever shape or form they could, from human capital to financial capital, because this journey is not a journey of a solo person. It does require a village to build a large company.
True. I suppose you would credit your earlier management and consulting experience, because this is not an easy domain. It is not, each startup has its own set of challenges, but there are lots of operationally intensive challenges in a domain like this one. So would you credit some of your past experience to give you that kind of wherewithal to attempt something like this?
I will credit, in Steve Jobs' language, stay hungry, stay foolish. So I was a little foolish not to realize that healthcare was 3 times harder and it takes 3 times longer. If I had known then, I probably would have chosen something else. But in hindsight, I'm glad I did not know that at that point of time, because, no matter what you do in life, it does require a little bit of leap of faith. And leap of faith could only happen to people who are not fully informed. Because if you feel that information is symmetric and available to everyone, nobody will do anything in life.
True. So on the asymmetry part, the 3.5 million users is a good chunk, is a pretty big chunk. And I'm sure you've done a lot of interesting things. What are some things that you've done differently to get to that big of a user base?
See, one, B2B2C helped. As people started using our service, people became our evangelists. Users started promoting Doctor Insta to other users. Corporations which would take Doctor Insta for their employees started promoting Doctor Insta to other corporations. So the network effect in this case helped us tremendously, both at retail level as well as at corporate level. Second thing was, many users in the past would have, and I'm sure they still have, the phone capacity issues in India. So the low-end smartphones don't let you keep as many apps as you would like to. And healthcare being healthcare as a product is not a product that you use multiple times in a day. You probably use it, once in a few weeks or few months, depending upon your need or your family needs. So initially, we had a very high proportion of app uninstalls. So that became a problem for us. And how we went about solving it also increased the dedication of the users for Doctor Insta. Because once you uninstall it, then your probability of reinstalling it is far lower than you are keeping the app all the time. What we did for this case was that, one, we offered the patient record management module of Doctor Insta to everyone free of cost. So now you can keep your MRIs, X-rays, CT scans at one place at no charge for you, and you can make them visible to the doctors when you're consulting with them as well. So once you start keeping all this, now you are the last person to uninstall the Doctor Insta app because you are more vested in the product. It's like, many people use Facebook to save their photos, and these people would never go very far away from Facebook because it has the repository of all their photos with their family members, all those amazing moments that they shared with their loved ones. Second thing that we did was we further enhanced our content team. So we started publishing blogs and health tips free of cost to our users on daily basis. So even on days when you're not using Doctor Insta app, you're still consuming the content through the healthcare blogs and tips of Doctor Insta. The third thing that we did was we introduced this feature called See Your Own Doctor. So in this case, let's say, Krishna, as we are talking about, the Doctor Insta offers only a curated pool of doctors. You say, oh, this is great. I love your curated pool of doctors, but I already have a pre-existing relationship with my own Dr. Kumar in Bangalore, which I do not want to disrupt. Now, the sad thing is Dr. Kumar is not online available, and I would like to do consults with the same Dr. Kumar as and when I want using this tool too. So what we did was we offered Doctor Insta free of cost to all these doctors that you want to onboard. They can do consults with you at a time convenient to you both, at a price convenient to you both. So using that feature, many people ended up choosing Doctor Insta to do consults with their own doctors. Doctors started onboarding their other patients too. Good thing for us is that we don't have to, do screening or acute screening of these doctors, because these doctors are consulting only and only their current patients. So that comfort level is already there. If Krishna has been going to Dr. Kumar for the last 20 years and Dr. Kumar is seeing Krishna, we are nobody to upset the apple cart there. We let Krishna consult with Dr. Kumar and pay Dr. Kumar the fee that Krishna is comfortable with on Doctor Insta app, and that fee would go to Dr. Kumar anyways. We don't haircut it in any shape or form. So approaches like these helped us tremendously in scaling up and also in increasing the stickiness of the app.
So before we wrap up, couple more. We've had a long conversation, interesting conversation. Couple more question. How has Doctor Insta changed Amit Munjal over the years? What has Doctor Insta personally meant to you? And what defines Amit Munjal?
See, Doctor Insta definitely made me a far more humble individual than I was in the past. Entrepreneurship as a whole is a very humbling experience. You experiment with hundreds of things. Most do not work. And the some that work, the intent is to scale it up at the best possible price so that you don't end up burning a lot of money in the process. So I will say, if I have to pinpoint one thing that Dr. Insta made me, that would be a far more humble individual than I was.
Of all the things that you could do, given your network, why healthcare, Amit? Was something else not brewing in your mind at that point in time?
No, I had 30 odd ideas to pursue, from agrotech to edtech to fintech to health tech. But because of my prior experience and the feel-good factor around delivering healthcare, making people's life better, was the key driver for me to choose this.
I'll end with this, and after that, would like some closing comments from you. India is at a crossroads today. The doctor density problem is creating a lopsided set of incentives and advantages, so much so that a lot of ethics, especially in the medical profession, are being turned on their head with extensive amounts of medical malpractice. Given the scale that you have achieved, is that an issue? If so, how have you a solution for it?
We have put some fantastic checks and balances in place. We don't encourage our doctors to do on-site consults for our patients. They can do online consults, but on-site is a no-no. As a result of which, it's very arm's length between the doctor and the patient. Also, you get to hear cases whereby a doctor practicing in a certain neighborhood was asking their patients to get medicines from a specific store or get diagnostic tests done from a specific lab. So when you are running it in an online manner, you're not creating any incentives for any of these doctors to get some, backdoor deal or under the table deal with those neighborhood pharmacies or diagnostic labs. So it's a far more transparent and far more ethical medium than the brick and mortar medium anyways. So we do our, periodic quality assurance checks whereby our dummy patients do consults with these doctors and make sure that these doctors are meeting the ideology and philosophy of Doctor Insta and doing these consultations in an arm's length, transparent manner, and there is nothing hanky-panky happening there.
Who would know? Technology to the rescue. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amit, it's been a great conversation. Lovely knowing you. And healthcare is a very touchy topic, close to all of our hearts. It's one of those things that directly affects the quality of life of people. So kudos to what you've done. And I'm sure this is just scratching the surface of the possibilities. Any closing comments before we say over and out?
So Krishna, first of all, thanks for your time to have me here and give me the opportunity to propagate my message to your listeners. I appreciate your efforts as well in putting together Maharajas of Scale and giving the entrepreneurs a mic or the platform or the podium to communicate to the fellow listeners as to what they are doing and what they are doing right and what they are doing wrong. I also welcome your listeners to reach out to me by emailing me if they have any feedback, suggestions, or thoughts about how we can improve the healthcare delivery in the Indian market for everyone so that we could all join forces in further democratizing healthcare pan-India. So my email in that case, I hope I have your permission to state my email here, Krishna.
Yes, please.
Thanks. So my email is Amit, AMIT, @doctorinsta.com, which is DOCTORINSTA.com. So I repeat, Amit @doctorinsta.com. Please feel free to reach out to me with your suggestions or thoughts about further improving whatever we are doing in Indian market for making a seamless delivery of healthcare to everyone at any time and anywhere. Thanks a lot, Krishna. One more time, I appreciate your having me.
Thank you, Amit.
We hope you enjoyed this story. If this story made a difference to you, tell us by leaving a comment on the website or our social media channels. Help us spread the love by subscribing, liking, and sharing our show. We welcome speaker suggestions and collaborations. Write to me at nida@maharajasofscale.com.